Hello, and welcome back to another review. This time we are continuing on with my sort of revisit of Torchwood. As I think I mentioned in my Torchwood Season 1 review that I recorded all the way back in July. This is actually, I'm recording this on the 2nd of October. That's how late this has been for me to finish my watch through of Season 2. Now, why do I say watch through and not rewatch? Well, that is because, like with season one, as I said, that I reviewed last month, I'd only seen a small portion of the episodes. Season two, even less than what I can remember. Just off of the top of my head, before I even watched through the full season, um, the episodes that I had seen was Kiss Kiss Bang Bang in full. I seen a little bit of Meat. I seen a bit of. I didn't even see Reset. I seen the ending to Reset. I think, or is the prelude to the next episode, which was Dead Man Walking. I either seen a bit of it or I seen it in full. I seen A Day in the Death in full. I seen something borrowed in full. I seen a small snippet from Adrift, and I seen the ending to Exit Wounds. I think when it officially aired is when I got introduced to Torchwood. So, with that being said, the rest of, as I said, that I did not mention just there, were first time watches for me. So, let's dive into Torchwood Series 2, the best season of Torchwood, in my honest opinion. Now, Torchwood Season 1 was spent trying to find its footing. You know, it's also trying to differentiate itself from Doctor Who by establishing that it's in the same universe, but a lot more darker, a lot more gritty, a lot more blood, a lot more sex. I mean, there was a whole episode dedicated to a sex gas. But Torchwood Season 2 found its footing. Now, one thing that I find interesting is in Season 1 of Torchwood, two episodes was written by the show's creator, Russell T Davies, that being the Season 1 opener and the Season 1 closer. But for Season 2, Russell did not write a single episode. He was actually going to write the opening episode, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, but I think prior obligations to Series 4 of Doctor Who had to take precedent. You know, it was his swan song for the show, so obviously that was going to take um, a lot of his time away. So, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, we are introduced to someone from Jack's past, and that is none other than Captain John Harman, played by the actor who plays Spike, as well as I also know him as the live action version of Piccolo from the terrible Dragon Ball Evolution movie that I reviewed back in March, as well as the English voice actor for the character of Zamasu, or Zamos, in the Dragon Ball Super English dub. But everyone really just knows him for Spike. Apparently, he was a big fan of Torchwood, or not so much Torchwood, but of Russell T Davies, and he wrote to have a part on the show, which obviously he got as he appears in this episode, the end of Fragments, and in the entirety of the episode Exit Wounds. Now, the episode is basically a fetch quest of sorts, also, and building up to John Harmon being a quote unquote villain this season. And it basically, the episode ends with a refresh of when he appeared at the end of, at the beginning of this episode. There's also another fun fact about this episode is the bar scene where Jack and John are fighting each other. That took a full day's worth of shooting, and instead of the normal, couple of hours that I would take per scene or what have you. That just took a full day's worth of shooting. So yeah, overall, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. It's an interesting episode because it also teases Gray, I believe, at the end, where John's like, "Oh, by the way, I found Gray," which we now know is Jack's brother. So the next episode is a first time watch, and that is Sleeper. Now, this episode basically sets up that there are alien sleeper agents on this planet. That it's a species that send in these sleeper agents to gather all this different intelligence on the planet, and then take it over for them to the rest of the species to come in and dominate. And it sets up that this is going to be a big, massive thing, and it doesn't. There is, like with the episode from Out the Rain, it sets something up that doesn't get a resolution with Torchwood. I believe it kind of does in either comics or Big Finish. I'm not 100% sure on that one, as I just haven't looked it up. But either way, Sleeper was an okay-ish episode. Didn't like how Jack was acting in this one. I remember his whole characteristics towards the sleeper agent, whose name I'm forgetting, Beth. His whole demeanor towards Beth for the vast majority of the episode felt very off to me. But that's that. The next episode, To the Last Man, is again another first time watch for me. And that's basically there is a soldier from the First Great War, was pulled by Torchwood of 1918 from a medical hospital in Cardiff to be frozen and taken out once a year, every year, until he's needed to stop this crossover between Cardiff of modern day of 2008 and the Cardiff of 1918. And it's a Tosh centric episode, and it's a better Tosh episode because the one episode she got last season was terrible. This one, however, is really, really good. She's really looking forward. She knows about this day. She knows, obviously, because she's been here 5 years, as we learn in fragments. So she's been witness to this soldier being unfrozen once a year, every year. And to him, it just seems like a day has passed, but it's an entire full year. And again, the big, massive jump from, 1918 to 2008, to the point where he just goes to sleep one day, the next day he wakes up in 1919, the war's over, and then that keeps going for a few more days for him, and then the second war, and then as again the days go by or the years go by, he wakes up, the war's over again. But yeah, as an episode, it's a really good because Tosh then has to basically convince him to do what he had to do, to save Cardiff. And we also then learn what happened to him afterwards, which was basically he was shot for disobeying orders due to being shell shock on the front lines. But yeah, it's a really good episode. The next episode is entitled Meat. Now, this episode, to me, a lot of people like this episode. A lot of people told it to be like one of the best episodes of season 2. I thought it was just okay. It is to me a little bit overrated, but it's still a good episode regardless of that, and it gets you thinking, that there would be people out there that would do this. They find this big alien whale thing that if you cut it up and cut chunks of meat off of it, and you learn that it can, regrow and go turn back to what it was before you did any damage to that. Of course, there would be greedy people out there that would think of, oh, I can use this to get money. And that's essentially what happened. But this also is a significant episode, is because Reese finally learns properly about Torchwood, and he finally gets to actually keep his memories, because the last time when Gwen told him about all of that, she roofied him with the retcon to make him forget. And even in this episode, it's not brought up that she's cheated on him with Owen and potentially Jack. But overall, like, I get why a lot of people say it's a really great episode. The CG obviously does not hold up nearly 20 years later, but what can you really expect? But I still liked it. The next episode, Adam, I didn't really necessarily like. So Adam is this creature that feeds off of being alive in people's memory. So he he breaks into Torchwood, infiltrates. That's the word I was trying to say. And he changes Tosh and Owen slightly. Their whole demeanor is completely different. They've essentially swapped characters. where Owen is kind of the more recluse that Tosh was, even wearing glasses, whereas Tosh is more outgoing now, kind of has the Owen personality. And then also Adam, once Yanto figures out that what Adam is, implants fake memories of him murdering 3 women, to the point where it was so Yanto really believed that, to the point where even the best lie detector that Jack had couldn't detect that he was lying. But overall, it's an all right-ish episode. Um, like I like the fact that the actors who play Owen and Toshiko got to kind of expand a little bit, not be tied down to their regular characteristics, that they got to, you know, try and flex their acting muscles with the different characteristics that they were able to play, that was alien to what they're normally used to playing. So, yeah, I didn't mind Adam all that much. The next episode, Reset, is the first part of a trilogy of stories that focuses on the death of Owen Harper, and it also brings back Martha Jones. Now, I'm going to save my opinions for Martha, how I thought of Martha's return, for when we get to Day in the Death. Um, but Reset is essentially, as the title says, there's this company that's resetting people back to humans back to their factory settings. If you have diabetes or HIV, they basically fix you. They cure that, something that what isn't curable. They can do that, but it's also using aliens to do that. There's this moth, and so that they've put like insect larvae into the hosts, and the after Jack and Owen go there to confront the doctor who's the head of this research, they end up sending in Martha, because Martha is now a member of UNIT, and which we already know from series 4 of Doctor Who, with her three appearances in season 4. But it was kind of confirmed here prior to that. And so the unit has also been looking into these mysterious deaths, and so she links in with Jack in Cardiff with Torchwood, and then obviously she goes in, she gets captured. They do some tests on her blood, and because of her travel with the doctor, there's obviously that background radiation, the Artron energy, that's because of Martha traveling in time in the TARDIS. She obviously soaked that up, as was mentioned in Doomsday, the background radiation. And so they're going to use her as the test subject to have this larvae. Owen gets rid of it, and then at the very end of the episode, Owen gets shot and is killed. So that's the end of part 1 to this really, really great trilogy for Owen. I really, really love these 3 episodes. Now, Reset is, in my opinion, the weaker of the trilogy. It's not bad, but when you compare it to Dead Man Walking and A Day in the Death, it's definitely the weaker of the two, of the trilogy of episodes. But that doesn't take away from the fact that it's still a really, really good episode. So speaking of A Dead Man Walking, that is the next episode to talk about. Now, this is where Owen gets brought back. Obviously, he's not going to die until the end of the season. So Jack goes out and hunts a glove, the same resurrection glove, but the other gauntlet that was used in season 1. And he brings it back and revives Owen, except Owen doesn't die after the 2 minutes. He doesn't go back to being dead. He's still alive, but dead at the same time. His body, there's no pulse, there's no air. He can't eat, he can't drink, he can't go to the bathroom. It's not stated whether or not he can sleep or not. But even obviously he still blinks because the actor himself isn't dead, so they obviously can't account for that. But it's still a really good episode because you see how he deals with that. Dealing with his death. But then also, speaking of death, we learn that death is coming out through Owen, because that's what that gauntlet was. We learned that the gauntlet was used back during the bubonic plague, and it needed 13 souls to be able to walk the earth again, but it stopped after Faith intervened. And turns out Faith was the little girl that was first brought back by the resurrection glove because she's not dead. Death couldn't take her soul, and so Death went back to the darkness. Um, and so he goes, takes out 13 souls in a hospital, also makes Martha age up drastically. I think this was like a kind of ploy for her to be there for the film for certain scenes, for her to then go off film for Doctor Who, with the Sontaran two-parter, or the Doctor's Daughter, or hell, even Stolen Earth and Journey's End. And so the episode essentially ends with Owen facing death. And it's a beautiful, beautiful scene. The score, Owen's theme, is my favorite theme that they have used for a character in all of Doctor Who. It's up there as one of the best because it is so emotional. And sorry for the cut off there. But yeah, as I was saying, Owen's theme is absolutely amazing. I love it. Absolutely love it. And so it ends kind of open ended. Martha is saved, Death is gone, as well as the gauntlet is gone. And we don't really know what's going to happen to Owen until we get to the next episode, which is A Day in the Death, where we follow Owen as with the aftermath. Obviously, Martha stays on to be the fill in doctor for Torchwood, and they run all these tests. They just they see that Owen, despite having despite being a walking corpse, is fine and fit and as healthy as he was when he died. There's also no chance of rigor mortis, but we don't know how long this is going to last. Any second he could just die, essentially. And because they don't know what to do with him, they relieve him of duty. And so we also learn that he just can't feel touch. He can't feel pain because he accidentally slices his hand open. And then when Tosh goes over to pay him a visit, because we know Tosh is madly in love with him and that, um, he actually breaks his finger. And because, he's just broken. He's numb. He doesn't feel anything. He can't feel anything. And he's just, without being in Torchwood, he just can't do anything. There's nothing for him to do. And then it turns out that there is a mission that he is perfect for, because there's this object that is putting out a lot of power that could, blow up Cardiff, essentially. And they look at the schematics of this person's house, and turns out that there's heat sensors. So anyone else from the team would be wouldn't work, except for Owen, because he's dead, no body heat. He's not going to trip the sensors. And as all this is unfolding, he's also telling it to a story of this woman who is about to jump and kill herself. And the entire episode is so beautiful because as he's telling her all this stuff, he ends with essentially convincing her to keep going. That suicide, isn't the end. That things will get better. She lost her husband mere hours after getting married to him, but you still have you not that you still have to carry on, but it will get better. It can get better. And it's such a beautiful episode. The entire trilogy of episodes, Reset, Dead Man Walking, and Day in the Death, are absolutely amazing. My favorite is Dead Man Walking, just for how Owen dealt with fighting death. Um, so obviously we now need to talk about Martha. Now, I said in my Series 3 review of Doctor Who that Martha was heavily underutilized. And kind of after Reset, she really is. She is in a few scenes, but again, thinking about it now, that's probably because she was off filming for Doctor Who at the same time. For, as I mentioned, her appearance in season 4. Um, but yeah, it felt like it kind of revert back to Martha prior to walking the earth for a year, and in between the Sound of Drums and the Last of the Time Lords. I felt like that character growth that she went on is gone. I mean, it's somewhat back when she appears in season 4 Doctor Who, but in Torchwood, she was definitely very much underutilized, and I would have liked to have seen more from that. But what can you do? What can you do? The next episode, Something Borrowed. As I said, this is a rewatch for me, and I remember it well. You see, I was kind of watching this in 2009 when it was reruns on the Sky Channel Dave or Wish or W, whatever it was called back in 2009. And I won't lie, I was a scaredy cat back in the day. I was 10 at the time, you know, um, 10 going on 11 or something around that. And how I remember that is because in 2009, um, for the Easter special, the first Easter special Doctor Who, I was up at my dad's, and I also ended up obviously watching this episode, Something Borrowed, and it scared me completely as a kid. And looking back on it now, like even after this rewatch, I don't know why I was scared, but at the same time, I get it now. You know, as we get older, things that we used to be absolutely terrified of might not scare us as we grow up, as we age, and as we get more experiences and all of that. Might so things that we look back on that we used to be absolutely terrified of might not seem as scary when you look at it through the lens of an adult compared to as a child. Um, but yeah, it wasn't really that good of an episode. It to me, it Something Borrowed just wasn't really all that good. Um, so yeah, uh, moving on to From Out the Rain, another not so good episode. Dealing with these circus performers coming out from film and that, and stealing your last breath. And it doesn't really matter that they stopped the villains, because again, this is another one that sets up that something could happen. They destroyed these traveling circus people on one set of film reels, but there's could be others out there, and it kind of teases that at the end. And I don't know if it went any further than this. I don't know if it was covered in Big Finish or in comics or books. I don't know, but it was shit, to say the least. It was shit. Um, so then the next episode is another first time watch, which was Adrift, where basically Gwen goes looking for a bunch of missing people. Turns out Jack is behind it. There's also Rift. We also learned that the Rift might doesn't just deposit things into Cardiff. It also takes things and puts them out of time. And so on this little island that after Jack discovered from his 100+ years working for Torchwood Cardiff, that he discovers that Torchwood had these people in the cellars. He set up a place for them to be looked after, um, and it's a decent episode. I have no real issues with this episode. It's all right. As a Gwen centric episode, it's okay, but as an episode as a whole, I liked it. The next episode though, Fragments, I really liked, because it shows how we obviously know how Gwen joined the team, because that's essentially Gwen is our surrogate as we're watching this, as we're watching Torchwood, but we don't know how Jack ended up joining. We don't know how Tosh, Yanto, or Owen joined, and out of all of those, the one who has the most depressing backstory is Owen. So I'll break it up. Easily one of the best episodes, I will definitely say. As I said, it's very interesting seeing Jack join the Torchwood. After being told when he's going to meet the Doctor, he's like, well, what the fuck am I going to do now? And he's like, oh, I guess I'll just join Torchwood. And then with Toshiko, she was obviously stealing some plans for these people and for this sonic blaster type of thing. And as this person is using it and her mother is in pain, we see a familiar scar forming on her forehead, which is the same scar that we seen in the end of season 1, which is a reference to the empty child, because it's the exact same scar that the empty child had on his hand. So yeah. Then Owen. Owen has the most saddest backstory out there. You know, he's a well-respected doctor. He had a fiance, which kind of ties back to what he said in Something Borrowed, where he says he doesn't care for weddings and all that. That's because he was due to be he was engaged. He was going to get married to someone, but then she's had early onset Alzheimer's, what they thought. But Owen did not like that, so he kept pushing for another scan, and that's when they found a tumor. But it wasn't no tumor. It was an alien parasite that, when it felt threatened, it killed everyone, including his fiance. And he thought he was going mad and all that stuff until Jack recruited him for Torchwood. And that then leads us to Exit Wounds, a really really great series finale. And had even if we didn't get Children of Earth or Miracle Day, it was a fantastic ending. You know, Captain John returns. We get more. We actually get to see Gray, because it turns out Gray is the one that's behind all these attacks and all that stuff. And half of well, not half of Cardiff, but a lot of Cardiff gets destroyed. This is also the last time we see the Weevils. There I don't there definitely weren't, to my knowledge, until I rewatch it. They definitely weren't shown up in Children of Earth, and obviously they never showed up in Miracle Day. But we also get to see another hoax. The thing from everyone's favorite episode, Love and Monsters, which also did kind of have a blink and you miss it cameo at the end of series 5, type of situation. Um, but yeah, turns out, as I said, Gray's behind it. He buries Jack. Turns out Jack is brought out and frozen, which means at any given point in the 40s, there was 3 Jacks roaming around. The Jack that went with with the Doctor in the TARDIS, the Jack that was with Torchwood in Cardiff, and the Jack that was frozen in Torchwood, that even Jack didn't know about. So yeah, that's interesting. But but yeah, at the end of the episode, um, Toshiko and Owen are killed, and I'm going to catch a little flack for this from the Torchwood fans. Tosh and Owen's death was more emotional than Yonto's death in Children of Earth. I'm gonna let that simmer, um, because that's my opinion. I'll explain it next month when I review Children of Earth. So yes, yeah, I'm forcing you to wait for me to explain that. But overall, series 2 is a fantastic season. There's a lot of highs and a lot of lows in this season, but I still thoroughly enjoyed my time watching it. And I'm glad that I gave these episodes that I'd never seen before a proper watch, especially episodes that I've only seen bits and pieces of, like in Drift. There was another scene in it was a scene in this episode that I had seen prior, um, that I obviously never seen the full episode, just that tiny scene. So that is going to be my review. Really love season 2 of Torchwood. Really glad that I gave it a proper watch. And yeah, so thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. My next review is going to be of The Hunger Games: Catching Fire. And then I will see you next month for my last of the Doctor Who series reviews, but also series 3 of Torchwood. I'll see you all next time.